I never know. Sometimes it says starting recording, and then it's like actually started. But there we go. Now it says it started. That's a good open for the show. Hi everybody. We'll see if I cut that out. How's
Yeah,
it going? Welcome to episode 2 of What's in the Box Score with my friend over here, Mr. Rick Wiener. Once again, baseball show. If you're watching this on YouTube, I am wearing a San Francisco Giants Hawaiian shirt that my dad was supposed to get for Christmas, but it was a size and a half too small on him. So it is now mine.
Mark is like a fashion icon. I mean, between that, you have the Major League socks, right?
Yep,
Like,
socks. I have a Major
yeah,
League Hawaiian.
I mean, you're setting trends over here.
I've got right now I'm currently wearing a pair of Mandalorian socks.
I, I'll take your word for it.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan. My girlfriend just got these for me for Christmas, so that's my I'm wearing these today.
Very nice.
We've got some things to talk about, which is nice. We are currently over a week into this lockout now. It still sucks.
Of course, it sucks. Nobody wants this. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, this is the
Rob
worst
Manfred
possible
wants
thing.
this.
Well, yeah, Manfred and the owners want it, and the players, I think, want it too, because at this point, it saves them from being the bad guys and going on strike.
Yeah. So, yeah, it sucks as a fan. It sucks as someone who's now technically covering the sport every week, but there are things for us to talk about. One thing that isn't affected by the lockout is the Baseball Hall of Fame. And as usual, they didn't get it completely right.
No, of
Because,
course, they never do. But I mean, they
yeah,
did pretty good, right?
they did pretty well this time. The last couple Veterans Committee elections, which is what I still call them because I can never remember the names of the 8 different committees that there are now. This one was Golden Era and Early Baseball, I think.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
that's the technical term. Yeah.
yeah, the Veterans Committees. Um, the past couple, I think they've gotten egregiously wrong with Harold Baines, Alan Trammell, and Jack Morris. So I'm glad they're starting to come around a little bit and get on the right side of things. First off, congratulations to the new Hall of Famers, of course. Some of which are deserving. Go ahead.
No, they're all deserving. I mean, there's not one person that the selection committee, put in that isn't deserving. I mean, nobody can sit there with a straight face and say, Buck O'Neill, Tony Oliva, Jim Cott, Gil Hodges, Minnie Minoso. You can't tell me these guys aren't Hall of Famers. They are. They should
No,
have been in before now.
I I agree. Like I 100% agree with 4 out of the 6 picks. I mainly agree with 5 out of the 6. I don't think Jim Cott should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, see, I'll die on the Jim Cott hill.
It very good pitcher for an incredibly long time. 25 years is so impressive, and I will take nothing away from Jim Cott. And I really like him as a color analyst. He's a They call him a baseball lifer for a reason. He's been around the game for what, 60 years now. He really
Something like that.
he really is incredible, and I do have all the respect in the world for him. I just don't know if he deserves to be in as a pitcher, man. Like, I'd be fine if the Hall wanted to include a Lifetime Achievement Award. Give that to Jim Cott. This is like, I don't know. I feel like it's more so like, he's getting old. We got to put him in. He pitched for a long time. 16 Gold Gloves, incredibly impressive. The resume speaks for itself, but he was what, like, and I know wins and losses don't matter anymore. I still look at them a little bit depending on what they say. To pitch 25 years and be like 30 games over 500, it's just not enough for me.
You can't fault him for being on terrible teams, number one. Number two, you can't brush over, 16-time Gold Glover, that's nice.
No,
Nice.
it's
For a
incredible.
pitcher, that's insanity.
It's
Nobody does that.
it's incredible, and I really like.
That
It's very
alone,
impressive.
I mean, if you want to talk about defense counting, and let's be honest, as much as we all love Ozzie Smith for the person that he is and the personality that he is, he's in because of his defense.
Yeah, couldn't hit a lick.
That should be enough for Jim Cott, who, okay, yeah, he was 45 games over 500 over 25 years. He also pitched to a 3.45 ERA, a 1.26 WHIP. He almost won 300 games.
Yes, and
like he checks most of the boxes.
Like I said, incredible career. He's not quite there for me. He pitched to, what'd you say it was, a 3.4 ERA?
3.45.
Yeah. In one of the most dead offensive eras in the history of baseball. I mean, you look at Juan Marichal, it was 2.7. You look like, I'm not even going to throw Bob Gibson in there because of the, obvious greatness difference between the two of them. But like, Jim Palmer was in the twos. Like, all these guys that are in the Hall from this era have ERAs significantly lower than that. And it's just one of those things where, yeah, and I don't fault him for being on terrible teams, but even guys that pitch for terrible teams find a way to have that like bigger differential between wins and losses, I feel. Like, I am far from like the type of person to look at a guy's win count and be like, that's why he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Like, Pedro Martinez won like 204 games, and he's the greatest pitcher these eyes have ever seen. Like when he was in his prime, I'm far from.
But Pedro's on a different level. Like you can't compare Pedro to anyone. Pedro was a freak of nature.
Yeah,
Pedro had no business being as dominant as he was.
That's true.
Like you look at Pedro Martinez, you're like, you're a pitcher? Really?
You're 5'7" on a good day at 130 pounds soaking wet. How hard did you say you throw?
He's me in 10th grade.
Yeah.
Okay, and the guy destroyed the major leagues for how long? Like Pedro Martinez isn't supposed to happen.
But just in terms of like looking at wins, like when might be another bad example just because of the dominance. When Jacob deGrom gets on the ballot in 10 years or whatever with 128 wins, I'm going to be the first person to say this guy deserves 100% of the vote.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, how can you can't make that argument against Cott and then be like, well, deGrom's only 12 games over 500, but he's a lock, and anyone that doesn't vote for him should have their vote. Not only should have their vote removed, but they should be taken out back and shot. Like
it's just one of those things where I feel like the dominance level has to come into it a little bit. Seriously, thinking back, was Jim Cott ever a top 5 pitcher in baseball?
Probably. Let's see. Let's go. This is just great content, by the way.
Yeah.
Me staring at a screen in silence.
This will not be cut.
No, of course not, because we're nothing but professional here. Okay,
I'll get
from
his stats
1964 to 1973, it did a nice 10-year chunk.
Mm-hmm.
Went 156 and 112 with a 3.2 ERA, 1.2 WHIP, and he won. Why isn't this? I can't see. Thank you, Baseball Reference. You're not working.
I'm doing it as well. Nope, it's not working for me either. I can't even get the average.
Okay, yeah. So 10. That was the Gold Glove number 3 to number.
Yeah, 64 to 73. He went 156 and 112 with a 3.2.
Yeah, and a top 5 finish in MVP voting, a top 20 finish in MVP voting. Okay, you want to hold one All-Star game against them for that span? Okay, go for it.
I do tend to look at All-Stars.
Okay, fine. Then here we go. Dick Allen. Dick Allen is a 7-time All-Star, and the man's didn't get in. He missed by 1 vote again.
We'll get to Dick Allen. Trust me. I have many takes on Dick Allen not being in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, and Cott, like I said, the guy had a great career, and he, I think he should be recognized for having a great career. It's just I don't know if it's quite Hall of Fame worthy when you put him up against the other pitchers from that era.
Fair enough. I don't want to spend the whole episode on Jim Cott. So
Yeah, like 108 ERA plus.
Yeah, see, that, maybe this is me showing the age difference between the two of us. I don't really care about the advanced sabermetric stuff when it comes to pitching. I can look at the basic stats and have a pretty good idea if the guy was any good.
Yeah, and that's fair. ERA plus is like the main one I look at with pitching. Pitching WAR makes zero sense to me.
WAR makes zero sense. There's no universal formula. You have 8 people that come up with 17 different ways to calculate it.
Yeah. Like I'll look at it for position players because usually they're all pretty close. Like Fangraphs and Baseball Reference don't differ all that much. So I'm like, okay, it's generally, and I can get a ballpark. WAR for pitchers, I do not understand. Like wins above replacement. How many more wins did he have than that guy? That's how many wins above replacement he should be.
I mean, there's so many things that go into.
Yeah.
Like it's just whatever. I don't know. I don't. I will not be the one who tries to quantify it. I was not a math whiz. I do not profess to be able to do much more than the basic 4: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And yeah, I'll leave that for people far smarter than I.
That's why we went into talking about sports for a living, Rick.
Yes, this is true.
But so that's my take on Jim Cott. Tony Oliva, I think, is rather borderline, but I'm fine with him being in. I have no objections to that.
Mm-hmm.
Buck O'Neill and Minnie Minoso. It's about damn time, especially for Buck O'Neill.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why, because they didn't recognize the Negro Leagues for whatever reason until last year. But,
well, they didn't recognize the official stats. They've been putting Negro League players in the Hall of Fame for a while now.
That's true.
And he should have been part of that first class of 17.
Yeah, no, he should have been.
Especially when you think of the fact that all of those guys were dead, so they needed someone to speak on their behalf. So they chose Buck O'Neill. And he gave an eloquent speech. It's a beautiful speech.
I remember the speech. Now that you mention it, I remember it.
Yeah. And he held zero grudges against the Hall for not including him. And he was so gracious just to be able to be there and talk about it. Make the class 18. Just put him in. He might be the best ambassador this game has ever seen. He was incredible. And I felt the same way when Marvin Miller finally got in last year. It was like, why did it take so long?
Yeah, I think Marvin Miller. I think that was just pressure from from the actual league, saying we don't want this guy enshrined because he was such a pain in our ass and he cost us so much money.
And the greatest advocate for players just ever.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Tony. Yeah. All due respect to Tony Clark.
You're no Marvin Miller, pal.
You couldn't. Yeah, there's not much. There's no comparison between you and Marvin Miller aside from the title.
But so I'm so happy those two got in. I've been begging for them to get into the Hall of Fame for a number of years now. Gil Hodges, I'm glad he's in. Great player. Obviously managed the Miracle Mets. Talk about another guy where you look at the totality of the baseball career. It's like, yeah, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame. Bud Fowler definitely never got enough recognition. I didn't know that this guy was the first African-American to play professional baseball until this year.
Yeah, I didn't know much about him until, his name popped up. And that's partly on me and partly on the game. Like, how is this guy not celebrated and talked about more? I don't understand. Especially when everyone knows who Buck O'Neill is. How do we not know who he is?
Yeah, exactly. When I did a deep dive on him, I was like, oh yeah, this guy, he should have been in there 50 years ago.
And not to go back to the Jim Cott thing, but you said the totality of Gil Hodges' career. The totality of when you look at everything that Jim Cott has done, same argument can be made. That's all I'm going to say.
And I'll agree with that. I just think Gil Hodges was a better player than Jim Cott.
That's fine. That's fine. And Minnie Minoso is, I mean, if you're a baseball fan and you don't know who Minnie Minoso is, we can't help you.
Come on.
Go to Google, type the name in, and enjoy.
I also just anytime Bill Veeck can be brought back into the modern discussion of baseball, that makes me happy.
Yeah, no, Bill Veeck is definitely somebody who, should be celebrated as much as possible. He was such a visionary.
But just because I was telling some of my buddies, they were like, because they looked up Minnie Minoso and they were on his baseball reference page and they're like, this guy played when he was 54?
Yep.
I was like, that's Bill Veeck, owner of the White Sox. He had Death to Disco Night and 10-cent beer night, two of the biggest disasters in the history of baseball.
But two of the most memorable
They're incredible
things you'll ever see.
He put shorts on the White Sox, which is still the funniest thing in the world to me, that they thought that would be a good idea.
Like I said, he was a visionary. He was not afraid to take chances.
But yeah, Minnie Minoso being in that one also made me very happy, because that's been a long time coming. The first Latin star in baseball, really.
I mean, talk about it, like O'Neill, another ambassador.
Yeah.
I mean, his personality was so infectious. If you heard him speak, I mean, it was an event. You had to pay attention.
Just, listening to him talk, and just the idea that he paved the way for, not just all of the Latin players playing now, which obviously is a ton and rightfully so, but just like before Clemente, before Tony Oliva, who got in this year with Minoso, just all these Latin stars that started coming up in the 50s and 60s, and it was like, yeah, that's because of Minnie.
Yeah, he definitely paved the way for a whole lot of people.
We got to talk about Dick Allen.
I guess he's just not quite there, apparently.
Apparently having the 14th best OPS plus of all time.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that there are still people who have votes that are like, he doesn't pass he doesn't check every box for me.
And
like, what boxes do you have? Show us your boxes.
Exactly.
We don't get it.
I got to get the stats up again. Here we go. I look at these like once a week.
1964 NL Rookie of the Year, 7-time All-Star. When he first got to the AL in 1972, he won the MVP with the White Sox. He had 37 home runs, 99 walks, 113 RBI, had a 420 on-base percentage, a 603 slugging percentage, and a 1.023 OPS. And this is 1972. Okay, we're not talking about the steroid era.
Mm-hmm.
If you take those numbers and you put them in the steroid era, or you put them in today, talking about a guy who's probably hitting 75 home runs.
Oh yeah, you put Dick Allen in the game right now with it's sometimes a juiced ball and sometimes a dead ball.
Yeah, depending on what side of the bed Manfred wakes up on.
Yeah, Dick Allen hits 50 home runs easy.
The fact that Dick Allen's not in is just absurd. I was hoping that, after his untimely passing last year, that they would say, all right, we got to do this.
Especially this was announced just days before the anniversary of his death. The anniversary of his death is on December 7th. It's actually on Pearl Harbor Day. And it was just days before, and I'm like, what a way to honor him on the anniversary of his death. They're finally going to let Dick Allen into the Hall of Fame.
Nope, they're not that. They're not that intelligent.
350 home runs, over 1,100 RBIs, career 292 hitter, 378 on base, 534 slugging. I mean, it's just everything.
And like you said, the 14th highest OPS of all time.
Yeah. 912 OPS, 156 OPS plus. And I saw people like talking about this on Twitter, which I really need to stop reading baseball Twitter because it is just awful. And I think it was Jay Jaffe that was talking about it. He created Jaws and huge Hall of Fame, like statistician in terms of like he builds all of his own stats and stuff and determines guys' worthiness for the Hall. And he was talking about it, and he's like, this is an outrage that Dick Allen isn't in. And he picked like an 11-year stretch where he was just the best hitter in baseball. And someone was like, Yeah, you can take a random 11 years from anybody and say that they were good. It's like, first of all, this guy only played 15 years. It's not like he played 28.
And even
So
if he did, he played those 11 years. That's like
yeah, that's
twice
all.
as long as half the guys that dude could name
Mhm.
lasted in the majors.
Yeah, it's like, what are we talking about here?
Eh,
I can take an 11-year stretch from anybody's career. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Take an 11-year stretch from Babe Ruth's career and be like, look at the numbers he put up? Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, and Jaffe wasn't the only one. Jeff Passan,
Yeah,
Alan Belongs, John Heyman. Veterans Committee did a great job with one obvious exception. Dick Allen should have been elected. Uh, Jason Stark, same thing. Jim
yep.
Salisbury, another, along the same lines. Ken Rosenthal, like big names, guys that know what the hell they're talking about. They all say, like, he should have been in, he belongs in, and I don't get it. So now we have to wait another 5 years to watch him fall one more vote short.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, and see, this is the thing that I have with Hall of Fames, my problem. Like, the numbers don't change after they retire.
Never have.
So to make a guy wait and wait and wait, like,
Mm-hmm.
it should just be, okay, 5 years are up. Is Mark a Hall of Famer, yes or no? Okay, next. Is Rick a Hall of Famer, yes or no? Okay, next. And that's it. Like,
Yeah.
to drag it out. I mean, because even in other sports, I think it was Harry Carson. They had asked him, after yet another snub. This was years ago. And he's like, I stopped caring.
Yeah.
He's like, because he's like, it's too painful to put myself through it, to put my family through. So we just stopped caring.
And Dick Allen's son said something similar. He was like, yeah, my father was like, they're never going to let me in. And this is still proof that they're never going to let him in, so I don't get my hopes up.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's sadly, he's 100% right. I mean, if they haven't gotten it right at this by now, there's no reason to think that they're ever going to get it right.
and it just amazes me that a sport that prides itself on its history, that's Major League Baseball's thing, is it's all about the history of the game, more so than any other sport, in my opinion.
It's supposed to be. That's the image that they like to put out, but clearly
Yeah, but
it's not.
something like this turns up where it's like, oh yeah, this surefire Hall of Famer still hasn't gotten in. Oh well, we'll do it again in 5 years. Maybe he'll get his chance next then. I
And,
just
and I can understand some people that'll be like, well, okay, so he had those numbers are good. They're really good, but if you look at his comps, he's not really there. Bullshit. I
mhm.
mean, Dick Allen literally, aside from the fact that he was a terrible fielder, I'll give him that. I'll give the haters that. Dick Allen was not a good fielder at all.
Mhm.
But, like, you're really going to tell me that David Wright, Willie Mays, Duke Snyder,
I'm
Ryan
looking at
Braun,
it right now. Yeah,
Dipper Jones, Gary Sheffield, who I think should have been in last year, he's never going to get in. He should be in. Um,
he's one of the tough ones.
I mean, Larry Doby, he's in. And
Mhm.
he's like, it's just so amazing to me that people won't vote for Dick Allen, but they'll vote for David Wright,
Yeah,
or
and
or they'll vote for Sheffield. Like,
yeah,
I don't get it.
and just looking at his, what we're looking at is the Baseball Reference similarity scores. Specifically, I see you look at the same ones I do, which is like by age, like who was he most like in every year of his career? Because I think the total ones can get a little screwy sometimes. Because it's like, you see guys that were good but not great. It only takes certain things into like consideration. I look at this list, and with the exception of Pablo Sandoval, every other name you just mentioned, I'm like, yeah, a Hall of Famer, probably, if it weren't for some external circumstances, like the case of Braun and Sheffield.
Well, yeah, I mean, Wright is going to be in the Hall of Fame. We know
Hmm.
that. Willie Mays is in. Duke Snyder's in. Matt Kemp's not going to get in, but
Yeah,
that's
Matt
because
Kemp.
because Kemp was really kind of once he got hurt, that was it.
Yeah,
You know,
he was well on his way.
like you said, Braun and Sheffield have their own baggage, and
Hmm.
Chipper is in.
Yeah,
So, like, I don't get it. you're talking about a guy who has no baggage. By everything I've read, was a great teammate.
Yeah, but he didn't like the media.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's not
Barry
fine
Bonds hates the media. Eddie Murray hated the media. Eddie Murray hated the media.
And it's fine until you remember that only baseball writers vote for this until it goes to committee.
Right. Well,
Like,
it's at the committee level, and we're still dealing with it. So
and
we can't say that.
Yeah.
Well, he was a dick to the media, and that's why he's not in. And not for nothing, if the media is keeping someone out who's deserving because they didn't get the soundbite that they wanted, go fuck yourself.
That is 100% to me why in my mind, why Jim Edmonds isn't in the Hall of Fame.
Well, yeah, probably.
Like,
I'm sure that, and there's probably some other things, but yeah, look, Edmonds should be in. Yeah, he's another one, but
when he fell off his first time on the ballot with below 5%, I was like, this is egregious. That guy's the best defensive center fielder I've ever seen.
I mean, Jim Edmonds made plays that shouldn't be made.
I don't care what if the defensive metrics say, oh, he didn't have as much range or anything. Like, whatever. Jim Edmonds was incredible. Andrew Jones, I'll listen to. People are like, yeah, he's the best defensive center fielder ever. I'm like, okay, yeah, he was great. Jim Edmonds, for the eye test at least, I've never seen anyone play center field like him.
I mean, it's Edmonds and Jones. I think those are the two that you can argue about.
And then Edmonds was the better hitter.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Jones, for as much fanfare as he got, I mean, he wasn't a great. I mean, he was a good hitter. He wasn't great.
250. Like,
yeah, he was a 250 hitter. He, 823 OPS. That's good.
That's solid. Yeah. Like,
he had a nice from 2000 to 2006. I mean, he was a 269 hitter, and this is his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a 269 hitter with a 865 OPS. So,
yeah, really good. And then you throw in the defense, obviously. But like, once he turned 30, his career was over.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's just the long and short of it. Is he turned 30 and all of a sudden he just fell off a cliff, which happens to some guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, I remember the corpse of Andrew Jones, patrolling the outfield for the Yankees in 2011 and 2012. It was kind of painful to watch.
Oh my! I felt so bad watching that. I was like, this guy used to be great. But anyway, that's pretty much all we got in the Hall of Fame. Congrats to the new inductees. Dick Allen, I hope you get in 5 years. I hope you're listening to this wherever you are, because we are both massively in support of you. But let's move on. Your background for the people that are not watching on YouTube but listening on Spreaker. By the way, I forgot to mention this last time. We are presented by Sports War Radio. Forgot to mention it last time. Shout out to Paul Boygreen Esden for letting us on his podcast network. Thank you very much. But your background, Paul. Rick, is a picture of Buck Showalter and a picture of Joe Girardi.
And yes, at the time when Buck Showalter lost his mind and thought he was going to absolutely murder Joe Girardi in the middle of the field at Yankee Stadium.
Yes. And that leads us into the Mets are still looking for a manager. And there's been some stuff going on here. So Max Scherzer said, I want Buck Showalter. I guess Steve Cohen is very in favor of Buck Showalter. But he also gave new GM Billy Epler a chance to find a guy on his own. And so if you find a guy that you think is really qualified and you think will be a good fit, we'll take into consideration, most likely hire the guy. I guess Epler couldn't find anybody?
No, I think he did. I think it's Clayton McCullough.
Oh, that's right. I saw they were interviewing Clayton McCullough. Is he first base coach for the Dodgers?
Dodgers first base coach. They interviewed him today. But this is Buck's job if he wants it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what Cohen told Epler. When Max Scherzer says we need Buck Showalter and his no bullshit approach, then that's what you do. You go out and you get Buck Showalter.
Now, I am more tuned in to Mets fans than I would prefer to be. I know a lot of Mets fans. I follow a lot of Mets fans on Twitter. Like, it's just one of those. I'm very tuned into what's going on with Mets fans. There are three sides to this coin with Mets fans. Am I still okay? It froze up for a second.
No, you're good.
There are three sides of this coin when it comes to Mets fans. One, Buck Showalter is just the guy we need. The no bullshit, no nonsense. Like, that's what this clubhouse needs. We want to avoid another raccoon situation or whatever the hell that was actually about. Two, he's old. He has never won a playoff game past the division series. He ran Baltimore into the ground, which isn't true. That was the front office.
Yeah, that wasn't him at all.
And he managed two teams that won a title the year after he left. Fair. Three, can we just hire Carlos Beltran again? That's the third side of the coin. Mets fans are like, I just want Beltran.
What is wrong with these people?
I personally think Buck's a great hire. I think Buck's a great manager, and he proved that in Baltimore by taking a team that a lot of people thought was a bunch of nobodies. People forget, before Chris Davis hit 50 home runs, it was like, who the hell is this guy? He was a nothing first baseman that came from Texas. Like, he turned that into a really good team. I don't know what your thoughts on Buck are, so I would like to hear you elaborate.
I mean, of the guys that are known to have been interviewed, Clayton McCullough, Bob Guerin, Showalter, Matt Quattraro, and Joe Espada. I mean, Buck Showalter stands out like a sore thumb. He's so above the rest of that list. And it's not to say the other guys aren't good. I think Bob Guerin could be a very good manager for the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
I think Quattraro and Espada will eventually get a chance. But the Mets needs you went down the three things that the Mets fans are talking about. What they're not talking about is the truth. And the truth is that they don't want another, well, this guy could be really good, so let's take a chance on him.
Yeah.
Or this guy was a former player and we all loved him, so yeah, we'll forget about the fact that Carlos Beltran didn't pick the bat off of his shoulder and we'll pretend that we love him again. No, you need a guy who's done this before. You are built to win now, Mets. You didn't sign Max Scherzer because, we have a 5-year plan. No, you signed Max Scherzer because you want to win the World Series next year.
Mm-hmm.
And you need a veteran guy to do that. And I'll tell you what, Buck Showalter is going to rattle some cages in that clubhouse. Francisco Lindor is not going to like Buck Showalter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of a come to, Lindor's going to have to look himself in the mirror and be like, all right, do I want to win or do I just care about the numbers? Because Showalter's going to tell him, like, I need you to move a guy over. You're going to move a guy over, or I'm going to pull you out of the game. I don't care how much money you make.
Well, are we sure Lindor wouldn't like him? Because, I mean, this guy played for Terry Francona for a number of years in Cleveland. And Tito's more of a player's manager than Showalter is. But at the same time, he's also pretty no bullshit.
No, he is pretty no bullshit, but I think Showalter is more old school, and I think Tito is more of a kind of mix.
Mm-hmm.
Where, there's some old school stuff. It's impossible for there not to be, given the fact that his dad, was around baseball for so long.
Yeah.
But I think Tito kind of figured out a way to tweak it and make it his own thing. Buck is very straightforward. There's no bullshit with Buck. He doesn't sugarcoat words. He does, he just come out and say it. He tells the truth, and that's it. I don't know if Lindor would like that. We never really heard Francona call anyone out.
Yeah.
Showalter won't hesitate to call a guy out.
It is interesting, and I don't understand why Mike Schilt isn't getting more attention in these managerial openings.
My only guess is that he told everyone he wants a year off. That's my only guess.
That has to be it. Because I feel like people should have been ringing his phone off the hook.
He's a very good manager. He's going to get another shot. I don't know why he's not employed still, but that's whatever.
And I mean, shit, the Padres haven't hired anyone yet, or the A's haven't hired anyone yet after Melvin left for the Padres, right?
Yeah, but the A's are in such a tear down mode. I mean, they're going to find the cheapest qualifying person they can find, they can get.
I mean,
they're not going to go after a guy like Showalter or a guy like Guerin who was in Oakland before.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want. They're not trying to win. Everyone knows they're not trying to win. So what do they need? A legit manager for?
I'm convinced the A's are never trying to win. They just win.
Yeah, it works out that's like that sometimes.
It seems like
luck into a really good team.
Yeah, it happens every year, and I'm tired of counting the A's out because I do it just about every year.
I'm pretty sure we can count them out this year, especially if they trade Olsen. Then you can definitely count.
Yeah, if they trade Olsen, and I've heard some rumblings, maybe even Chapman. Like if they get rid of those guys, then yeah, absolutely they won't do anything. But it's like I'm just remembering back to like 2013. This team that was led by Brandon Moss and Josh Reddick, and Sonny Gray was a rookie. Just these nobodies that, Moss and Reddick were both castaways from their prior organization. And I know about Reddick. I remember him playing for the Red Sox, and I was like, this guy stinks. And I was happy when he went to Oakland, and then he hit 30 home runs. And just Coco Crisp, who was never really anything special, and I think he made an all-star team in Oakland. Like, they just always get these guys that I don't know if it's something about the atmosphere of playing in a terrible stadium. They only get 15,000 fans to a game, but they're the most loyal 15,000 fans in baseball. Like
they are. I mean, they're up there with some of the worst teams that Tigers fans. Tigers haven't been good for years, and they still show up.
I've got a buddy who's a diehard Tigers fan, and he's just like, I hate this team, but I also love them.
That's like me with the Islanders. I hate the team, but I can't stop.
Yeah,
I can't help myself.
But so it'll be. I think they'll get someone qualified to be their manager. I don't think they're going to take a huge risk.
Oh no, it'll be someone who's qualified, but like I said, it's going to be someone cheap with Oakland.
But going back to the Mets thing, I think Buck's a perfect fit. I'm surprised it took him this long to realize that.
Yeah, and he's also, I just thought of this, he's also like a PR win for them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, nobody is going to be like, I can't believe they hired Buck Showalter. Who the hell's this guy? You know, like, the fans are going to be like, all right, we got a dude who knows how to do it. He's done it before. He knows New York. He's handled it before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he worked under the boss. Do anyone really think Uncle Steve is going to intimidate him?
Yeah.
Like, he survived 3 years with Steinbrenner.
Who's this guy that managed Jeter and Posada and Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson and Adam Jones and like?
Yeah, like he knows, and like you said, yes. When he left the Yankees, they went on to win the World Series the next year. When he left the Diamondbacks, went on to win the World Series the next year. Yeah, that's a thing. But I guarantee you, those teams don't win the World Series that following year unless they spent the previous 3 learning and growing and molding under a guy like Showalter. And the Mets are further along than
any
those
of those
teams were at that point. There's not a whole bunch of young guys that they're still trying to develop.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets, aside from, I mean, yeah, okay, you've got Luis Guillorme, guys like that, role players.
That guy's nothing. I've seen plenty of him in Syracuse.
I'm saying, like, there's nobody that they really need to develop.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll have some ideas for Alonso, ideas for this guy or that guy, but like this team's, and look at the guys that they just signed. Aside from Scherzer, Marte, Canna, like, they got veteran guys.
All guys that have been around the block.
Guys that know what they're doing.
Yeah, they know exactly what type of player they are.
And they just all the Mets need is someone who's going to be able to command respect in that locker room, and that's Showalter above any of the other guys that they've interviewed.
I do want to get into just the Mets offseason a little bit. So the player signings are all great, obviously. boy, they've really had some trouble getting some people to fill some prominent positions in the role. They finally hired Billy Epler a few weeks ago after weeks of searching for a GM. They're still looking for a manager. What's the problem?
I don't know. I mean, I was the first one to say something's not right in Flushing. Something's wrong here.
Yeah.
You know, with so many people saying no, maybe Cohen rubs people the wrong way. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it is what it is. Like, they have Epler, so they got their GM. Whether people think Epler's good or not,
I thought it was a terrible hire when they made it. I was like, look what he did to the Angels.
that wasn't him. That's what everybody thinks. Everyone's like, Billy Epler sucked because look what he did with the Angels. Billy Epler was forced by Artie Moreno to hand out those terrible contracts. Billy Epler didn't want to sign those guys. Artie Moreno told him, I want this shiny new thing, and I don't care what the number is. Here's a check, get it done, or you're fired.
It's not even just like the huge contracts, like like he wasn't there for Pujols. He took over as GM in 2015. So like didn't sign Pujols, didn't sign Hamilton, didn't sign CJ Wilson, all that stuff. But it's like Anthony Rendon was on him. And we'll still see about that one. I still think he's a really good baseball player and that could work out. But it's just for years, it was just the lack of any adapting. It seems like the Angels have been stuck in the mud since Mike Trout came up.
Well, they have been.
And every year it's the same thing. They need pitching. They need pitching. They need pitching. The lineup's great. They need pitching. Oh, Justin Upton's also on him. But it's like, yeah, they need pitching. And this guy, he went out and signed Dylan Bundy that one time. That worked for a little bit.
Yeah, but again, I'm not convinced that that's not interference from ownership saying, go spend the bulk of your budget on this, and then whatever you have left, put together a pitching staff. I've heard too many things and read too many things that all kind of intimate the same thing, that Artie Moreno is kind of a meddler, that he kind of wants what he wants and doesn't really care what the GM thinks as to whether or not it's a good idea or whether or not it's going to impact the team in another way. Because, hey, boss, if we spend this much over here, we don't have a whole heck of a lot to spend over here, and we kind of need this more than we need that. Can we meet in the middle a little bit? And say, no, I want that. So, I mean, anyone who's saying it's, not going to work out, it's too early.
Oh, yeah, it's way
based on, early. I mean, you saw the moves that he made.
I thought they were all great moves.
I think they're all great moves, and I don't think I mean, sure, if we're talking real life, yes, he overpaid for Max Scherzer. But in terms of baseball, he didn't overpay for Max Scherzer. He gave Max Scherzer a fair market deal. In the real world, that's insane. That's like what Pat McAfee got from FanDuel today. Insane.
That's crazy.
I mean, good on him. Pat.
Yeah.
Congrats to that whole crew, because that show is fucking phenomenal.
Oh, I love that show.
But that's insanity. Like, that's like, in the real world, that's nuts. But in the podcast world, that's really not that crazy. Okay, I guess that's still really crazy. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, Joe Rogan set the bar so high that, like, anyone that's semi as successful is going to have that kind of a payday.
Yeah, I mean, Rogan gets like $83 million a year from Spotify or whatever. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Rogan can probably wipes his ass with, $1,000 bills that nobody else ever sees.
And then eat some because he thinks it'll cure COVID.
It worked. I'm not going to get into it, but it worked. So who gives a shit?
But yeah, it's just a weird off season for the Mets, and it is a shame that Moreno is like that out in LA. Because I'm just sports owners make me mad because I want every one of them to be like Steve Cohen. I think if every team had an owner like Steve Cohen, sports would be a lot better. Just in terms of a guy that actually cares about the product that's going out on the field. Like, he wants the team to win. He doesn't care about the financial side of things as much. So many owners, like we see it with Dan Schneider, and we saw it with the Wilpons with the Mets. They didn't give a shit about what the product was out on the field. Uh, the guy that just sold the Timberwolves, I can't think of his name, but
Glenn Taylor.
yeah, Glenn Taylor. Thank you. Like, it was never about I want my team to be good. It was always about I don't want to spend my money and I just want to sit here and rake in the dough. Freaking either of the oh my god, I can't think of their last name. Dolans. Like, either of the Dolans are the same thing. The one that owns the Cleveland Guardians and obviously James Dolan that owns the Knicks. Like, why can't sports owners just care about their teams more? When the Mets hired when Steve Cohen bought the Mets, I was like, this is great. He's going to care.
Because 98% of them, it's just business. They're just companies. They're just things on a ledger. Like, Cohen is a rare thing that he's a fan. George Steinbrenner was a rare thing because he at one point said, I'm tired of losing. I want to win. I can't spend all my money anyway, so screw it. Like, let's go win this thing. And it helped that he got suspended because then it let Gene Michael and that whole crew build what the Yankees are today.
Yeah.
You know, and anyone that thinks that this isn't a carryover from the dynasty years is insane. Brian Cashman there's a lot of people there that were put in place back then.
I know he gets a lot of shit. Still a Steinbrenner that owns the team. Like,
he's a Steinbrenner in name only. He's about as far away from his father.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, polar opposites.
Yeah. I completely agree, but
Hank was his dad. Hank was the next coming of his father.
Yeah. But in the sense that just like, yeah, there's still a lot of carryover. It's like ownership hasn't really changed hands. It's still in the family. This guy's like you said, a complete polar opposite from his father, and I think that hurts the Yankees a lot.
Yeah, well, it's not so much that I don't think that he's a polar opposite and that I don't think he'll spend money, because he has and he will.
No, but just in the sense that I don't think he cares about winning the World Series all that much.
No, I think he's okay being like, guys, we made the playoffs. Like, what else? The World Series is a bust edict. Like, if we don't win it all, it's a failure. Like, that's long gone. That no longer exists in the Bronx.
And I tend to agree with that ideology that it doesn't need to be that way up to a certain point. The Yankees have just been winning 90 games and not winning anything else for long enough where it's like, okay, you need to win the World Series now.
Yeah, like if you're a team that's rebuilding, then yeah, you're not going to have that edict. But if you have the core of your team there, and you're happy with that group, and that's who you're building around, yeah, at some point you do have to say, listen, it's time to shit or get off the pot. Like, we can't keep just doing the same thing over and over again. The fans are tired of it. We're tired of it. Like, either we're going to do this or we're breaking the band up and we're going to go find another drummer.
It's always the drummer.
It's either the drummer or the bass player.
Always. Unless it's like Led Zeppelin, where they're just like, we can't keep doing this. That was Bonzo.
Well, yeah, it was. That was Bonzo.
Yeah, it was. There are certain exceptions, but it's always the drummer or the bass player. Just looking here, I don't really think there's. I mean, obviously, there's not much else to talk about. Yasiel Puig signed in Korea. That's cool. That guy should still be in the major leagues.
I mean, I'm glad to see he's still playing baseball. I don't, maybe he'll get a cup of coffee back in the majors at some point, but I doubt it. I think we've probably seen the last of Yasiel Puig.
Don't get why.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was ever as good as we all thought he was going to be.
Oh, absolutely, did not live up to the hype.
Same with Yoenis Cespedes. Cespedes was great for a few years, and yes, he got hurt, and that was unfortunate. But Cespedes, I don't know if you were probably too young. Since you were probably in kindergarten when Cespedes broke in.
2012.
Yeah,
I very much remember Yoenis Cespedes' rookie year.
Do you remember his training video on the beach from the year before? Okay, because that was the thing of legend.
Yeah, And it is insane.
No, it's still insane. And like, but you watch that and you're just like, holy shit, this guy's gonna murder somebody with the ball off of his bat.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he had that when he broke in with the Dodgers. I mean, he was otherworldly.
Oh
But
yeah.
he was never that guy.
It's just like
And he was
I
kind
look.
of a head case.
Oh, absolutely a head case. But I look at the numbers, and people are like, "Oh yeah, he stunk his last year anyway." He had 267 with 24 home runs.
Yeah,
That's
that. I
not
mean,
nothing.
it's not a bad year.
Yeah. In the year before, 267, 23 home runs, 263, 28 home runs. Like, the guy became a legitimate power threat. He was still stealing 15 to 19 bases a year. Like, he was, obviously, we all know about the arm because it's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, the arm was special.
It, guys like that not being able to get a job in the major leagues just confounds me. It was the same thing with Adam Jones when he signed in Japan. It was like, no one wants this guy. First of all,
Yeah,
he's still
I think
decent,
at that point Adam Jones was kind of washed.
but he was still relative. He was productive enough, I think, to warrant getting a job somewhere, especially because he's just the nicest guy ever.
Yeah, but okay, but does that work? Does the name recognition work against the guy like Adam Jones in that situation where teams are like, yeah, he could probably still help us, but the fans and everyone's going to be like, holy shit, we got Adam Jones. It's not the same Adam Jones. You
No,
know, like,
and
does the perception that, wow, we just got this amazing outfielder who's a great guy, but he's still a great guy. He's just not a great outfielder anymore. Like, does the expectations, do you think that scares some teams off from a guy like Puig, guy like Jones?
I don't think so. No, especially with Puig, like, Adam Jones, he was, made a few All-Star teams. He was the backbone of that Orioles team. Like, with Jones, I could see it a little bit. Puig, the consensus is he never lived up to the hype.
Right. And well, I think that works against Puig. Where teams are just like, what's the point? Like, if we can get him on a minor league deal, maybe, but he's not going to accept him. He's not going to go to the minors.
But it's just at the same time, when Puig was out of Major League Baseball, which he opted out of last year due to COVID and, didn't play again this year, he's still, he's 31 years old. It's not like the guy's 36.
Yeah, no, he's got baseball left to play. I don't see it ever being in the majors.
Yeah, and I just think that's a shame. I never like to see guys' careers end like that in such a weird fashion.
No.
And you never know, he could make a comeback. We've been seeing that more and more lately. Miles Mikolas went overseas and got a nice deal from the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Lyles just got paid ridiculously by the Cubs, which I don't, not the Cubs, who signed him?
The Rangers?
The Rangers. I don't know. Whoever it was, somebody gave him like 4 years, $20 million. I thought it was a little much.
Yeah, that guy stinks.
Hey, he's had flashes, but he went overseas. He kind of reinvented himself, and here we are.
I think my favorite one is
I'm sorry, not Jordan Lyles. I can't believe I'm blocking on his name.
Trying to think of. He's the only Lyles I can think of.
No, it wasn't Lyles. I'm blocking. No, it was Lyles. It was the Orioles, not the Rangers.
Yeah, didn't he pitch on Texas last year?
Yes. No. Okay. No.
Oh,
Lyles went to the Orioles 1 year, 7 years. He was with Texas last year. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking I'll find it. Keep talking. I'll find this guy.
I think my favorite one though is Dan Straley because he was decent over. He was decent over here, and then he signed over there and be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna just dominate over there." And he just struck out 15 guys per 9 innings. And he also pitched in Australia at one point, which that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if they want to play ball, they want to play ball, and they're going to do whatever they have to do to, to keep it going, even if that means traveling around the world. This is so bad that I can't remember this because I saw he signed and I was just like, holy crap, like I got to bring this up. And now I can't remember who he was. Oh, well, can't be that important.
Do you follow Cespedes Family Barbecue on Twitter?
I used to, and then I stopped, and I don't remember why.
I just think it's funny because they keep highlighting the Dominican Winter League. It's just the most random names. It's Asdrubal Cabrera is hitting behind Mike Brasso, and it's like, what the hell is going on here?
I mean, guys want to play, like I said, and
Yeah.
especially guys like that who are like borderline major leaguers at this point. They want, and especially since they can't really do anything with teams right now. I mean, they want to be able to show off that they can still play.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Shit,
I
Fernando
can't
Tatis
find the guy that I'm thinking of, so sorry to go down that path.
I just saw that apparently Fernando Tatis Jr. got in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah, he's fine, thank God, because he's
Yeah.
the keeper on my fantasy in my dynasty league. Well,
Yeah,
he's one of my 4.
I just didn't even see that.
Now, I mean, there should be. You can't put it in the contracts, obviously, but it seems like every offseason, somebody of note gets into a car accident in the Dominican.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Every year.
maybe tell them, you make so much money. Here's a credit card. Order an Uber every time you need to leave the house.
Yeah.
We'll pay for it.
It is a shit. And we've seen some that obviously.
Yeah, well, no, most end up tragically. Thank God this ended up with him. I guess he just had some
scrapes
bumps and bruises and scratches and stuff.
Really don't need another Jose Fernandez on our hands.
No, that still stings. He was so amazing.
It cried my eyes out. He was my favorite pitcher to watch. A couple years ago, I picked up his autograph. I got it sitting over there. It's one of my favorites in my collection.
Very nice. He was a one of a kind talent, and that was something.
I still go back and watch the video of him catching the line drive from Troy Tulowitzki in Tulovia. Like, did you catch that? He's like,
And in the first game the Marlins played, and still one of them after his death.
when D Gordon hit one 500 feet when I didn't think he could hit one out of Marlins Park to begin with.
Yeah, no, he absolutely crushed it. But that would talk about an emotional sporting event. Yeah, that was there. I cried watching that.
Yeah, that one I cried. That and the no hitter the Angels threw after Tyler Skaggs died. I was a puddle.
Yeah, that was another good one.
Well, I think that's just going to wrap it up for us. Slightly shorter this time than it was last week. That's what happens when the sport you talk about is dying.
Is that really what we want to get across here? That baseball's dying, but you should still listen to this brand new baseball podcast?
I think you should. And once again, thank you to Sports War Radio for letting us be on here. I'm going to shout them out twice this episode because I forgot to do it last time. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to tune in next week. This will be up tomorrow around noon. This is just some inside baseball here between me and Rick. This will be going out on Friday around noon. That's about what the release schedule is going to be, I think. So make sure to look forward to that. Follow us on Twitter at BoxScorePod. There's underscores in between each word there. Follow me on Twitter, marker_box. Follow Rick on Twitter, Rick Wiener NY. And thank you so much for listening. Rick, any last words?
Nope, that's it. You nailed it. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have ideas, you have topics you want us to talk about, hit the Twitter account. Let us know. We will talk about anything.
But you want to hear our takes on the Vikings-Steelers game? We got it.
We don't know what we're talking about. We'll talk about it.
Easiest thing in the world is for us to just talk about a thing.
You want us to talk about brain surgery? Sure, let's go. Couldn't tell you anything. I would probably pass out as soon if you showed me a picture.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you want me to talk about how to do it? Sure. Scalpel, open, play with the brain, sew it back up.
Always go with the scalpel first. If I know anything about brain surgery, which I like to think that I don't, always start with the scalpel.
Yeah, no, my best friend growing up is an orthopedic surgeon. I understand the scalpel part.
Yeah.
After that, you lose me. The scalpel and the stitches.
Yep.
I get the beginning and the end. Everything in the middle, I don't need to know.
None of it is worth anything, in my opinion.
No.
All right. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
Take it easy.